You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, 5-Star Management, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt DeDuro, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 147 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette. Here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Jason Richardson. He is not a chiropractor, but if you want to know more about mindset and movement, stay tuned. So we have not a chiropractor, but we have...
Not a chiropractor.
have somebody that is supporting the chiropractic profession, and one of my coaches and Luke's coaches inside of our amazing group of entrepreneurs called the Inner Circle. And this is Coach Jason Richardson. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit and tell people a little bit about what your experience is working in the chiropractic space.
Yeah, so you got most of it right.
But you got to do
you got 100% of it right. Yeah, I do that when I do my videos for the Inner Circle, and that's an inside thing. They know why I do that. But yeah, you got everything that you mentioned right. I'm a psychologist by trade. Before that, I got a degree in business, and before that, or actually during that, I was a professional BMX racer. So my whole deal is blending all three, business, sport, and life, bringing those three things together using psychology, mindset, health, so to help people kick butt in every aspect that they can in life. That said, I've been working with chiropractor. Well, my chiropractic story begins in 1997 when I separated this shoulder. And my buddy was like, you need to go see Dr. Brett. I'm like, who's Dr. Brett? He's a chiropractor. Why don't he see a chiropractor? I separated my shoulder. Anyways, that was answered very quickly when I saw Dr. Brett, and kept seeing him throughout my whole racing career. So that's I started in 97. I retired in 2008. And then becoming a psychologist along the way, I was doctored in 2010, and knew I always wanted to speak and work with athletes and work with executives, coach entrepreneurs. So I did do clinical practice for a bit, and I connected with Dr. Ed through his podcast, was on his show, and attended a couple of his events, and it turned out that he asked me to be one of the coaches for Inner Circle. A bunch of crazy chiropreneurs, and I don't say crazy in the clinical sense, but in the fun, loving, awesome, fun sense of crazy. And so I apply mindset and marketing and branding and business and ideas and vision, helping the people in the group gain clarity, and really refine their message and what they're offering to the world to help people. I don't know if I answered your question, but I feel like I meandered in and around it.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. But one of the things I wanted you to touch on is I know recently you've come out with a book. Let's talk about that book a little bit so people can maybe get a knowledge base on what you're doing outside of the Inner Circle and chiropractic space. Yeah,
so, and I'm glad you said recently. So, and it's important because I want to be... I want to share that that book was re-released just past December, I believe. So that book actually came out in 2015. It's called It's All BS. We're all wrong and you're all right. The BS stands for belief systems. And it did decently when I first released it, but I wrote it with a friend and mentor of mine, Dr. Irwin, who came up with the belief matrix. And that's featured in the book. It's a great tool really to break down, I don't want to say negative beliefs, but beliefs that aren't working for you anymore. But I did re-release it this December. Proud to say it was It sat in number one, his bestseller, for like 4 days, which was pretty cool. I was stoked on that. And it talks about our belief systems, how they get there, why they get there, what ones don't work for us, and what ones that would probably work for us better. And not only that, but how to build a bigger, better, stronger belief system. So that's the book.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing about that.
Thank you.
And, as you're being in mindset, I know you probably have some things that keep you motivated to, not lose your path with helping other people. What are a couple of the quotes that you kind of live by, or some mantras that keep you inspired?
So the biggest one that's been coming up for me lately, I have several, but the biggest one lately, I even had it stitched inside of one of my new jackets, blazers that I got. It's called, it's hard to pay now, it hurts to pay later. It's hard to pay now, it hurts to pay later. So if you think of investment, it's always like, this power of compounding interest. And, it shows, you see those examples of the kid who saved, when he was 16 to 20 and then stopped saving. And the person who started saving at 25 to 65, the person who started at 16 and stopped at 20 has more money than the person who pretty much saved from 25 till 65, something like that. But the point is, that concept not only works in money and investment, but it works in relationships. It works in skill set. It works in pretty much any endeavor you choose. Paying your bills on time, like all these little things, right? Making your bed, but it does take effort to get started. And it also takes effort to keep going. However, if you don't start, if you don't keep going, when it's actually time for the bill to be due, when it's actually time to withdraw from the retirement, I hope that there's some money in the account. When there's actually time to extract, right, all the benefits of good health, I hope that you can do that. For instance, this coronavirus thing going around right now, right? Like Dr. Ed even mentioned yesterday, so businesses have been exposed, but it's also exposing a lot of other things, which is how compromised a person may be from a health standpoint, right? And the more compromised you are, the more compromised you are, right? But those that have been putting in time from a health standpoint or a business standpoint are less compromised as the bill's going to be paying due. Does that mean that you're irresponsible and you don't follow guidelines and you just kind of go willy-nilly? No, but it does mean that you are better off in worse times and greater off in good times when you start investing sooner rather than later, which leads me to another mantra: start yesterday. And that's a personal one. That's a personal one because I waited to become a doctor to do a lot of the things that I'm doing.
It's like, when's the best time to plant a tree?
Right.
Yesterday.
Exactly.
So I kind of want to backpedal a little bit, and I'm curious, what inspired you to get into psychology in the first place?
So my undergraduate degree was in philosophy, which, while it was interesting to me, it wasn't like there was a bunch of philosophy companies hiring. I had the benefit of being an athlete and racing a bike for a living, so there wasn't this pressure to like pick a career, right? Because I was already making money. I was already in my career. I was already doing my thing. I knew it wasn't going to last forever, but I just said, and I listened to my dad. I studied what interested me, and that was philosophy. I don't know if it was the most practical degree from a job standpoint, but it was definitely practical from viewing life standpoint and tackling question standpoint and putting arguments together standpoint, constantly writing, constantly presenting, and thinking about big things, right? Life things, metaphysical, existential things. And, but there is a practical side to me. I was racing bikes. I was being sponsored by companies. I was essentially a spokesperson for those companies, and business always interested me. So I got my MBA. The long ride to psychology was I broke my femur. That's the big bone. Well, I'm speaking to docs. They know this. So I broke my femur in 2006. And I thought I was I didn't think I was the oldest guy pretty much out there racing at the time. And everyone thought, even myself, that I would have to quit or it would be done. And I realized that I didn't want to end my career that way. So I wanted to get better to race. And also, not only that, something inherently in me knew that if I had a reason to get better, that I would get better faster. So the goal was to race again. So I was able to do that. Was on the bike. Well, I was officially racing 8 months later. I was on a bike 3 months later, pedaling, and received a lot of chiropractic care. By the way, I even flew Dr. Stefan Gunter down from Monterey to stay with me for a week and just work his magic to help aid in the recovery. Anyways, my second or third race back, I was flying back from a race and I sat next to a couple coming back from a convention. And there was a psychologist or psychology convention of sorts. So they were both therapists, and I had worked with a sports psychologist throughout my career, off and on, a great deal of my career. And I figured I can do this. There's no inventory necessary. There's no SKU numbers. It's me promoting myself, my ideas. So I kind of figured from a business model, it wasn't too much different than promoting myself as an athlete. I knew I'd have a great in as a professional athlete with a lot of legitimacy. So I figured I could plug myself back into my community, but then expand from there. So that was it. I mean, it was just a really fortuitous meeting with a couple on an airplane, a conversation. And then I was back in school. So that was October of 2007. I was in school that January of 9. Pretty crazy. Oh no, January of 2008. So I was in school 3 months later.
So do you have any favorite philosophers who inspire you, living or passed on?
Good question. I would say, I don't know if I have any favorites. And unfortunately, the stuff I remember, I can't even attribute it to any certain, philosopher. I think each one has their kind of benefits and flaws. I do like a lot of, I'm a bit of a Jordan Peterson fan. I guess he's kind of the most current thinker. He's a psychologist. He's honest, in my opinion, and he gets a lot of flack for that. But I appreciate his conviction, even if I don't always agree. I appreciate hard, strong thinkers. But yeah, as far as anyone particular, not necessarily. There's so many brilliant people out there, and it's funny in psychology. I was always, especially when I was in clinical practice, I was always recommending more business and marketing books to my peer group on that side, just because I always felt like the people in marketing, a lot of the people in business, the successful ones, understood psychology or human behavior, and in some cases better than the social scientists. So someone like Seth Godin or someone like Gladwell, those guys can really kind of, even Gladwell's a journalist, but kind of coming around it from that angle where you see human behavior, you see people's kind of patterns, their thought process behind why they make certain decisions, what they do. All those things are really interesting to me. And then, the whole reason why I got into it was not only to help, but, I figured there was a bunch of psychologists working with this small pie of, okay, let's help. Let's bill insurance and help people who, have a clinically diagnosable thing, anxiety, depression, bipolar. And that's fine. That's great. But that pie is limited. And I figured, well, wait, this stuff that I'm learning can also help everybody, regardless of what you may have. So my thing was like, well, why not use this to not only get better, but excel, right? Because it's, to me, everything kind of exists on a continuum. Psychologists will say spectrum. I say continuum. That's a little branding, marketing play right there. But everything's on that continuum, right? So, and no matter where you are on the continuum, I write about this in the book, the fundamentals are still the same, right? It's just where the comma and or the decimal point is.
So I guess you touched on a few topics there that kind of got my brain moving fast forward. And based on your positioning right now, who is your ideal client? Who do you like to work with?
I like to work with, lately, that's interesting, my ideal client, it's the person who, well, I am the person to help pretty much anyone who's in an individual sport. That includes the business owner. That includes the business owner, right? The person who doesn't necessarily have the system in place. The person who gets up every morning and they have to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, okay, well, what's today going to be like? Everybody says that to a certain degree, but let's be real. If you're walking into your corporation XYZ or your big company XYZ, you can kind of just file in and just kind of roll through it. And I'm not to say that I wouldn't help those people. That's not to say that, but I guess my ideal client is that person who's really looking to push, that person who's really looking for a bit of an edge, that person who's really, looking to make a difference, not only in what they're providing for other people, but in their own lives and the people with whom they come into contact with. So that's kind of a broad swath of people. But that usually works out to, athletes, and of the athletes, that works out to people who are into very, very individualized sport and racing specifically, any kind of racing. And with business, that works out to a kind of a C-level executive or upper level management, and definitely the entrepreneur who's really looking at growing their business. I mean, I have a client now, pretty sweet. They do cookies and catering, but they kill it with cookies and catering. And it's so fun to work with them because our last conversation was literally, how do we get rid of this thing? Not like get rid of it, but like sell it, right? Like, what is the plan to get out of it? Because we're actually literally looking at them growing so fast that they can scale and sell it off and just kind of, get paid to consult later on. So those are the people that I end up working with.
Yeah. So that opens me up to like another linear level of question is, so by working with entrepreneurs and by working with individual athletes and knowing who your somewhat of an ideal client is and what kind of ecosystem they live in, how do you get your referrals and how do you build your business?
Interesting. So I have, to be very specific, I have three things, right? I'll count the book, that's a product, but there's three main ways. So it's speaking, and that's, conferences, and I'm the guy on stage doing the keynote. There's working with individuals. And then there's kind of the third, which is a blend of both, which is facilitating workshops and groups. So it's kind of, you can call it coaching, but I can do workshops and training. So those are the three ways. So from a speaking standpoint, I learned sales, like straight up, how to attract leads, get leads, groom the leads, and nurture them, and to bring them in, and then have them become clients. And the cool part about that is that speaking gig ends up working into a workshop or training. and then that ends up working into individual coaching, right? So there's this very natural there's like an ascending model, but a descending model where they come in, okay, we want you to speak at our sales meeting. We want you to speak at our annual retreat, whatever it might be. And then boom, boom, boom. Then it's like, oh, well, can you facilitate this group? And then, hey, do you work with people individually? Yes, well, I do. From the athlete standpoint or individual standpoint, a lot of people come to me via Instagram, Facebook, and because I have a pretty solid following of cyclists, mountain bike and BMX, and then word of mouth. So lately, I've been getting a lot of referrals just by other people that I've worked with and have helped over the past few years. I've been at it for a while now, so it's kind of feeding itself. But I'm always doing some form of, I don't want to say promotion, but I'm consistent with being in front of my work. I'm consistent with being on top of my message. I'm consistent with as best as I can be with my branding and messaging. So even when I go to like my wife's work functions, people are saying, "Hey, I saw you on LinkedIn," or even when she goes to work, there's people that she meets like outside in San Diego, and they'll quote me because of something I said on LinkedIn or Facebook, which is like, she's like, "Oh my gosh, here we go." But it lets me know, like, okay, it's all working, right? And the consistency and showing up is worth it. Is worth, whether it was money or time, whatever that investment was, but planting those seeds is worth it. So because whether you come to me from referral and don't know me, or whether you might have worked for me, that messaging that you see is going to be consistent. And with that consistency, not only is it like algorithm this and algorithm that and Facebook and Instagram, it's not that, and not even it's just top of mind, but with consistency, especially in this day and age, it engenders trust, and it engenders like this like stability and safety, right? So, and I get into it with my clients, whether it's business or not. I mean, we're going to talk about what needs to be talked about so we can get the best out of you, right? And so me being that stable force, that consistent, the person who shows up consistently, even if you're not necessarily working with me, I think there's on a subconscious level that engenders a great deal of trust. And interestingly enough, I mean, that's what I was known for in my racing career, was being consistent. I didn't win as much as I would have liked to, but I was in the final. I was out of countless finals, and I had a 15-year professional career, which is crazy.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, 5-Star Management, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt DeDuro, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle.
Well, that even like segues me to the next idea is you work with solopreneurs, whether they're solo athletes or entrepreneurs, or like the person that carries the sword and the torch at the same time, and they're going to fight for themselves.
Yeah.
And then that takes us into the space that we really nurture and work with, is chiropractic. And you've had an opportunity to work with probably about 70 high-end chiropractors recently over the past year and a half. What do you see as like the one thing that people need within the chiropractic space to get their message out to more people, and to keep that synergy of branding going to where we're all branding for the same cause?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So like with anything else, I mean, I'm kind of on the outside, but I'm also on the inside. Without getting myself into trouble with philosophy, this, that, or the other, as a person who's had chiropractic care and who has experienced the longevity that it gave my racing career, the vibrance that it gives my life now. And by the way, and I'm going to be super duper honest, like I'm not even under as consistent care as I'd like to be, or regular care as I'd like to be now. But philosophically, I still practice what I've learned over the years, and share that as best I can psychologically. But it's given me so much, because I'm 45 now, and what I'm noticing now is that, how do I want to put this? At 45, me doing the things that I like to do the way I like to do them, knock on wood, it's something that I never thought that would be possible 10 years ago at 34 or even 25. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of 45-year-olds who look at me and think, I can't believe you do that at your age. And it's not because like I'm like super genetic freak or anything like that. It's because I've put into practice as best I can a lot of the chiropractic principles that I learned along the way. So I think what it needs, I think it's getting there. I think it's actually getting there. I see, it's funny, like there's this kind of medical versus or chiropractic versus, or in psychology, we have a bit about that too, kind of the more, like the MD versus the PsyD or PhD. And, but I think in chiropractic, I think the biggest thing that's needed is to what I noticed, if I were to coach the chiropractic community, is like, stop justifying your existence. Like, just stop. And by the way, like I love medical doctors too. Like I have a good friend, Dr. Clarence Lee, like he's dope. And you know what he says? He says, you don't need a pill, you need a purpose, right? That's an MD. But medical doctors learn medicine. Good for them. Because when I got my surgery, guess what I needed? I needed some painkillers. Someone had to put me to sleep to get a surgery for my femur. Thank God, right? And then when I got out, and then I went to some dude who was on my insurance who was like, yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to walk again. Then I was like, Dr. G, chiropractor, this dude says I can't walk again. I need you to come down here. He's like, sure. And then it was like, not only get me walking, but get me pedaling. But the point is, I'm going off on tangents because all this stuff's going through my head again, but stop justifying your existence. Like you don't have to justify why you're this or why you're that or why. I mean, I understand like boards, I understand licensing, I understand making claims. I do get all that regulatory stuff, but let the MDs be the experts in medicine and chiros be the experts in whatever the hell you're the expert in, and show up as that and let that be enough. Because as soon as you start cowering and apologizing, then you're leveraged, period. And by the way, there's just as many lame MDs as there are good ones. And there's just as many lame chiros as there are good ones, right? So, and we also know that the model is set up for the medical system. I'm not making it the enemy. I'm just saying that's how it's happened, right? The AMA, the pharmaceutical, the insurance, all that stuff is, and I would say, if nothing else, and I'm being real generous here, because there's protectionism exists, even within groups, protectionism exists. But the bottom line is they've had a longer head start than chiropractic in all of this stuff. So, I would just say to chiros, like, just show up as great as you are, and show up with your knowledge, with your professionalism, with your area of expertise. Do not apologize for it, and be a peer, not just to other chiropractors, but like to anybody. Like at the end of the day, like, it's a Rocky quote, but when he was going up against Drago, he's like, you know, what his trainer was saying, he's just a man, right? He's just a man. He's just a man. Be more man than him, right? So I'm saying to the chiros, right, to show up, right? They're just other people. Be more people than them. Be more human than them. Like, that's the benefit. And so, anyways, I could just keep going and going and going. I'm pretty passionate about
it's great
this stuff. Yeah.
So from your perspective, where do you see the chiropractic profession finding itself in the next 20 years or so?
I'm glad you asked me that question, because I totally went off on a tangent. So where I was going with that, as I was ranting, going maniacal, is I'm behind the scenes. I'm behind the scenes at the X Games. I'm behind the scenes at the Olympics. I'm behind the scenes at like if there's a professional event, sporting event, I'm the guy on the ground floor. And yes, there's someone to administer medicine there. There's also a chiropractor there. And the thing is, the person who's administering medicine is usually there after someone got blasted, after someone got mangled or hurt. But the chiro is there, you know, and they are there during the whole time. It's like pre, it's during, and it's post. And we even see that with Keith Kimberlin, Kansas City Chiefs, right? They have him on staff. So I'm seeing it ground floor at these events where there are chiropractors running medical now in some events, or there is like MD and chiro, and they're kind of like, and they're working together to run medical, especially where people are, you know, looking to perform. But here's the thing. I would hope people who are not athletes would want to perform, right? And when I say perform, is like, you know, when you pull in your driveway after work, that you're able to get out of the car, right, and stand up straight and walk in and be able to bend over and pick up the baby, right, or the kid, or run after Johnny or Julie, jump on the trampoline, you know, all that's performance too. It's not just an NFL ring. So I see chiro in the next 10, 20 years as becoming more, and part of it's wishful, but I also see it as becoming part of the overall healthcare, I don't want to say system, but an overall healthcare plan for people, the overall healthcare for lack of a better word, system.
Well, Jason, what you're saying is so clear, but what is missing there is that chiropractors are the practitioners of the future and today. Mm-hmm. And once they start to get more integrated with the MD, there should be a chiropractor in every hospital. There should be 20 chiropractors in every hospital. There should be people that are in trauma care getting adjusted. There are people that are like mangled, as you said, that are falling off of, you know, elite athletes that are needing it. But there's also the people that are going to the infirmary situation where they're in a crisis care, that if they were getting their like C1 and C2 adjusted, that would free them up to have more ability to heal. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're talking about like, you know, crisis care. So if people were like, you know, in some type of delivering babies, if that mom got adjusted on the neck and maybe got adjusted at like the T4 and there was a rib out, that baby would come out a lot easier.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, it's proactive, it's preventative, it's triage. I mean, and then it's even during, right? So, I just see it as being part of how you take care of yourself.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing when people feel good. Mm-hmm. And that's why
you think?
One of the things you were saying about earlier is about like the insurance model. Mm-hmm. Is the reason that, you know, chiropractic works so well is because it gets people feeling good and making them better. Mm-hmm. And insurance doesn't want to, you know, support people feeling good and getting better. They want to work with people that have some type of an illness or some type of a long-term condition.
Well, I'll tell you this, insurance doesn't even want that. Insurance doesn't even want that. What insurance is, so it's like every McDonald's is really like McDonald's isn't in the food business, in real estate, right? We know this. Insurance isn't in healthcare business. They're in money. They're in the money business, investment business, right? So the longer they can sit on all that pool of money and grow that pie, the better. I mean, we have insurance. And we went to get something for my son, and it was like, oh yeah, well, that's not approved. So, right. So they're not going to pay for that. It's like, well, wait, the licensed provider prescribed it, who's on your panel, but you from wherever you are not approving it because, right. I'm sure because there's a cost issue, but it's like, but the bottom line is their job for the insurance company isn't necessarily even to pay out. It's to bring in more people, right? It's like 24-hour fitness, which I go to, by the way, but they don't really care if you use the gym. They have more members that can fit inside the gym, right? So it's all about just attracting members and growing their growing the profit center in the bank account. And I get that. So the biggest thing, and again, getting a little political here, what kills me about, at least in the United States, is, when they talk about healthcare, it's like, I think everyone should have healthcare, but health insurance doesn't mean healthcare. And that's where I think people confuse it. Oh, well, you don't have health insurance. It's like, well, but do you have healthcare, right? Because the other thing is, like, I practice healthcare for me, right? So see that? Whole body vibration machine. I know how to train on it. That's healthcare, right? A push-up, that's healthcare. Breathing, that's healthcare, right? Eating vegetables, that's healthcare. Walking the dog, that's healthcare. See what I'm going? So like as soon as I say, here, insurance company, let me give you the responsibility of taking care of me, and let me wait, and then try to extract it back out, right? That insurance company is too busy trying to get more people into their insurance system. So insurance it's beyond even their healthcare. It's beyond even taking care of you. It's about growing their profit centers.
So I know we're coming up on the edge of our time.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm like totally blowing this interview because you guys are like, damn it, Jason, stay on track.
No, it's perfect. I'm really enjoying it. I know Luke is too. There's a lot of good information you're providing to our audience today. But one of the things I'm curious about is you do such a good job of helping people, and you do such a good job of getting clients. How do you actually like schedule yourself out properly to do so much and to help so many people?
Well, I don't know that. I think I look busier than I am. To be honest with you, like with my clients, they're all over the world. So I have I don't charge for time. I'm not like, okay, that session was an hour. I mean, so people usually, when they work with me, it's like for 6 months or a year. We're in an Olympic year, but actually that Olympic year got extended out. So that got kind of crazy, but I do my best to do the work that interests me and to play within my strengths and my personality traits. That way I'm engaged at a higher level. And that way the person with whom I'm working with is getting more out of me. From a scheduling standpoint, I think I'm just trusting like that the world force, the energy, God, whoever you want to call it. Like, I just trust that I know that there's gonna be times where I'm busier than other times, but I also trust that, that the work that I get or don't get is there's a reason for that. And so usually it works out fine. Like it just does. So a lot of times I'm having conversations with people, and I know I'm working and we're going over deep stuff or heavy stuff or important stuff, but it's just a conversation, right? Like, and by the way, if I wasn't doing that, I'd be talking to someone anyway. Like, I still have the time. So, there's times where it gets busier than I can, right. I do feel stressed. I do feel I want to deliver, but, yeah, I just handle it. And there's ways to scale, right? So I don't just rely on working with individuals. I have group work and facilitation work, and then I have speaking work. So any one of those three, if they're all firing, cool, then I have to be a little bit more picky as to what I take. But usually, like, when one drops down, the other one picks up. For instance, the speaking thing is not a big thing right now because of this whole virus stuff. But I've gotten some inquiries about individual work just recently. So great. That's fine.
So tell us about you personally a little bit. Are you in the middle of any good books? Do you listen to podcasts? What are some hobbies?
I'm a big James Altucher fan. So I like his podcast. Another podcast I like, which is fun, is Stuff You Should Know. Hidden Brain is another favorite. My sister has an award-winning podcast called The Stoop. Just FYI. So proud of her for that. I mean, it's amazing. I'm not reading anything right. I'm kind of reading Lifespan right now by Dr. David Sinclair. But I'm kind of also avoiding reading too much, and that is because I'm currently writing another book. So I don't want too much of someone else's stuff bleeding out onto my paper. And my new book is called More, Better, Happier. Calm the F down and grow the F up. So I'm going to get a little bit more into I'm going to go a little bit beyond psych and go a little bit into some deeper human person issues there. But really, my most favorite thing is riding my bike. I mean, I'm a bike geek, bike nerd. Like, I just love it. And my youngest got a new bike. So, so we found an open field the other day, and we were just hitting jumps on our bikes. It was great. I love it.
So if someone wanted to buy your book or hire you as a coach or just connect with you, what are some websites people can go to find out more about you?
So the book is easy. That's Amazon. It's all BS, and you will see my face on that. But as far as me, my handle on Instagram is @RealDrJRich. That's @RealDrJRich. My website is www.drjasonrichardson.com. That's drjasonrichardson.com. And then I'm on Facebook. Just type in my name. There's a business page or personal page. Hit me up on either. I will get back to you. I do get back to you. And I encourage you to reach out, actually. If nothing else, I promise I'll light you up. If nothing else.
Well, is there anything we did not ask you that you wanted to touch on?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good. Yeah.
All right.
Cool. I
Cool.
appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for all that you're doing with, for the chiropractic community, the wellness, health, mindset effort. I think you both are doing a great job in your own respect. So, I just appreciate you having me on the show, and looking forward to seeing you guys at the next event. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Well, we have a lot of fun with what we do, and it's an honor to have such amazing guests like yourself.
Thank you.
So much fun to be able to hold court with the conversation and to be able to share these as time capsule episodes that are going to be evergreen, that people are going to be able to listen to from now until the end of time. And they're going to see what we were doing on March 25th of 2020. And they're going to see what Dr. Jason Richardson, Luke Millett, and Jim Chester were talking about. And this episode will come out in about a month. So
Nice.
We're going to be able to see what we're talking about today. But yeah, like I said, it's just an honor to be able to hold a conversation and to talk to people about things that interest them and to elevate somebody else's persona onto our platform and allow us to co-brand with them. I think
No,
that's a real unique part.
Yeah, totally appreciate it. Totally appreciate it. And there is one thing I did remember. So, because you said branding. So one big thing is for maybe like early career people, is to learn the difference between branding, marketing, and selling.
Yeah.
Learn the difference. That's huge.
And when to do it.
Right. Right. And reach out to somebody if you don't know, right? Just because you have that doctor in front of or behind your name, wherever it is, as badass as you are, you don't know everything. If reach out to someone you don't know. And these two guys right here that I'm speaking with might even be able to point you in the right direction. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, we want you to have a great rest of your day, and maybe you can still go out and hit some jumps.
There we go. Do my best, man. Take care.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.